Steam curls through the air, thick and suffocating, carrying the scent of oil and something far darker. Just a few steps away, the most powerful man on earth relaxes in his bath, completely unaware that his final hour has already begun. Hidden in your hands is a small tablet, a list of names, methods of execution, and there, carved into wax, is your own sunrise. That's when you're meant to die. But tonight, something has changed, because for the first time in over a decade, someone inside this palace has decided the Emperor doesn't get to see another morning. For years, you have lived in silence. You learned how to read the room before anyone spoke, how to smile at the right moment, lower your eyes at the right time, and never, under any circumstance, react to what you witnessed. Because inside this palace, survival was not about loyalty, it was about invisibility. You watched men rise and fall in a single evening. You saw servants dragged away for mistakes so small they barely deserved notice. A spilled cup, a delayed response, a glance held a second too long. In any other place, these things meant nothing. Here, they could mean death. And at the center of it all stood one man, Commodus, Emperor of Rome, ruler of a vast empire stretching across continents, a man raised in unimaginable luxury, surrounded by philosophers, generals, and scholars who tried to shape him into a wise leader. On paper, he had everything a ruler could ever need. But something inside him had always been missing. Even as a child, there were signs. While other children recoiled from pain, he studied it. Where others felt guilt, he felt curiosity. It wasn't anger that drove him. It was something colder, something emptier. There's a story whispered through the palace walls, one that everyone pretends not to remember, but no one can forget. He was still a boy, barely 11. After a long day of lessons, he demanded a bath, not just any bath, perfectly heated, exactly as he expected. But that day, the water was wrong, slightly too cool. For most children, it would have been a complaint, a tantrum, maybe. For Commodus, it was a sentence. He ordered the man responsible thrown into the furnace, burned alive. No hesitation, no doubt. The room froze. Servants exchanged terrified glances, knowing they were trapped between two impossible choices: disobey the future emperor or carry out something unthinkable. So they lied. They staged the execution, threw oil-soaked wool into the fire, filled the room with the stench of burning flesh, and screamed as if a man was dying inside. And Commodus watched. He didn't look away. He didn't question it. He accepted it. A life extinguished over bathwater, and to him it made perfect sense. When he later discovered the truth, that no one had actually died, he didn't feel relief. He felt anger, not at the cruelty, but at being deceived. And this time, he made sure the man was killed for real. That was the moment everything changed, because it wasn't just a child's temper anymore. It was proof of something far more dangerous, a complete absence of empathy, a mind that didn't recognize suffering the way others did. His father, Marcus Aurelius, saw it too. A philosopher, a man who believed in discipline, reason, and mercy. He had spent his life trying to understand the nature of humanity, and now he was forced to confront something he couldn't fix: his own son. So he did the only thing he could think of. He took Commodus out of the palace and into the real world, the battlefield, the frontier, a place where men bled, struggled, and died not for entertainment, but for survival. He thought hardship might change him.
It didn't, because Commodus didn't see suffering the way his father did. He saw power. He saw soldiers kneel when he approached. He saw entire legions respond to his voice. He realized that the authority he held as a child inside the palace extended far beyond it, and he liked it. While his father spoke of duty, sacrifice, and responsibility, Commodus absorbed a different lesson entirely: control. By the time Marcus Aurelius died, that lesson had fully taken root. At just 19 years old, Commodus became emperor. And for a brief moment, it almost seemed like things might go well. He ended the wars on the frontier, returned to Rome, gave the people peace. After years of conflict, it felt like relief. But it wasn't mercy. It was boredom. He didn't want war. He didn't want responsibility. He didn't want the endless weight of governing an empire. He wanted comfort, entertainment, adoration. So he handed the actual work of ruling to others and surrounded himself with people who told him exactly what he wanted to hear: that he was great, that he was chosen, that he was more than human. And slowly, he began to believe it. At first, it was subtle, small changes, symbols, appearances. But over time, the idea grew stronger, louder, impossible to ignore. He wasn't just emperor. He was divine, a living God walking among mortals. And once that belief took hold, everything else began to fall apart. Because a man who thinks he is above humanity no longer feels bound by its rules.
At first, Rome didn't know how to react. Emperors before him had flirted with divinity. Some allowed temples to be built in their honor after death. Others accepted quiet worship while they were still alive. But there was always a line, a boundary between man and God. Commodus erased it completely. He didn't hint at being divine, he declared it. He styled himself after Hercules, the legendary warrior who strangled beasts with his bare hands and conquered monsters no ordinary man could face. But this wasn't admiration, it was transformation. Commodus didn't want to be like Hercules, he believed he was Hercules. He began appearing in public, draped in a lion's skin, carrying a heavy club, his chest bare as if he had just stepped out of myth. Statues across Rome were reshaped to reflect this new identity. Coins were minted with his image not as emperor, but as a god. Everywhere people looked, they saw the same message. This is no longer a man. This is something above you. And in Rome, disagreeing with that message was not an opinion. It was a death sentence. At first, the people played along. They always had. Rome had survived difficult rulers before. If pretending to believe kept you alive, then you pretended. You nodded, you clapped, you repeated the words expected of you. But Commodus wanted more than belief. He wanted proof. He wanted to feel power, not just hear about it. And there was only one place in Rome where power could be displayed so absolutely that no one could look away: the arena, the Colosseum. For generations, it had been a tool of control, a place where emperors entertained the masses with spectacle, gladiators, wild animals, staged battles, bread and games. Keep the people distracted and they won't question power. But Commodus didn't want to sit above the games. He wanted to become them. At first, it sounded like a rumor, too absurd to be real. The emperor fighting as a gladiator? It was unthinkable. Gladiators were slaves, criminals, men with nothing left to lose. For the ruler of the known world to step into their role was an insult to everything Rome stood for. But the rumors were true. He stepped onto the sand, and the moment he did, the rules changed. This wasn't combat, it was theater. Every opponent was carefully selected, weakened, chained, drugged. Some could barely stand. Others were given wooden weapons, useless against real steel. There was never any danger, only the illusion of it.
From the stands, the crowd roared, tens of thousands of voices shaking the stone walls, chanting his name, praising his strength. But the cheers weren't real. They couldn't be, because scattered throughout the crowd were soldiers, informants, eyes watching every reaction, every face, every movement, and everyone knew it. If you didn't cheer, if your expression slipped, if you showed even a hint of disgust, you could disappear before the sun set. So they screamed until their throats burned. They clapped until their hands ached. They praised a performance they all knew was fake, because the cost of honesty was death. No one felt that pressure more than the senators. They sat closest to the arena, close enough to see every detail, every staged blow, every terrified opponent who knew they were about to die for someone else's fantasy. These were powerful men, generals, leaders, men who had governed provinces and commanded armies, and now they sat like prisoners, forced to watch, forced to approve. Some of them developed strange habits just to survive. They chewed laurel leaves constantly, keeping their faces in motion so no one could read their expressions. If their mouths twisted in disgust, it could be explained away. Not horror, just chewing. Others clapped wildly, overacted their approval, hoping the performance itself would shield them. Every second in that arena was a calculation. How do I look entertained without revealing the truth? Because the truth was simple. This wasn't power. This was madness. And then came the moment that made it impossible to ignore. An ostrich was brought into the arena. With a single strike, Commodus cut its head off. The body collapsed, the neck still twitching, barely attached. And then he picked it up. He walked slowly towards the senators, holding the dead head in one hand, letting it dangle grotesquely in front of them. No words, no speech, just a gesture. His free hand swept across the front row, pointing from the dead animal to them. The message was unmistakable. This could be you. One wrong move, one wrong look, and your head would come off just as easily. Somewhere in the crowd, a man laughed, not because it was funny, because it was too much. Fear had reached a point where it broke something inside him. The laughter slipped out, uncontrolled, desperate. He didn't live much longer, because Commodus noticed everything, and he never forgot. But even that wasn't enough, because once you convince yourself you're a god, you start needing more than obedience. You need dominance. You need to prove over and over again that no one can resist you. So Commodus pushed further, past the line, into something darker. He stopped pretending his victims were worthy opponents. He stopped pretending at all. He began dragging the weakest people in Rome into the arena, the forgotten, the vulnerable, those with no one to defend them. And what happened next turned spectacle into horror.
By now, Rome understood the truth. This was no longer entertainment. This was cruelty, stripped bare. Commodus ordered the most vulnerable people in the city to be taken from the streets, men with broken bodies, people who could barely stand, let alone fight. They were dragged into the arena, terrified, confused, surrounded by a crowd that didn't dare speak. Then came the final touch. His attendants tied crude tails to their bodies, turning them into something grotesque, something inhuman. Not citizens, not victims, monsters. That's what he called them. Monsters that only a god could defeat. And then he stepped onto the sand, club in hand, dressed as Hercules, and began killing them. There was no resistance, no fight, just bodies collapsing one after another under the weight of his blows. And the crowd, they cheered, not because they believed in what they were seeing, but because they had no choice, because silence would be noticed, because silence could get them killed. So they screamed their approval while innocent people died in front of them, and something inside Rome broke that day. Because once a civilization is forced to celebrate cruelty, it begins to rot from the inside. But the arena was only half the nightmare. Behind the palace walls, things were worse, far worse. Inside, Commodus created a world where nothing was stable, where fear replaced law, where no rank, no title, no relationship could protect you. He filled the palace with companions, men and women taken from across the empire. Some were slaves, others came from noble families who had no power to refuse him. Once inside, they lost everything, their identity, their dignity, their freedom. They existed only to serve his mood. Feasts stretched late into the night, music echoed through marble halls, tables overflowed with food. On the surface, it looked like excess, but underneath, it was control. Because at any moment, the tone could shift. A joke could become humiliation, a smile could become a target, a single glance could be interpreted as disrespect. And when that happened, the night ended in blood. He forced powerful men to degrade themselves for his amusement. Commanders, officials, men who once held authority, reduced to nothing in front of a watching room. And no one could refuse, because refusal meant death. Sometimes he didn't wait for a reason. A servant spills wine, a messenger brings bad news, a guard moves too slowly, and suddenly they're dragged forward, punished, tortured, killed, right there on the floor, while everyone else sits frozen, staring at their plates, pretending not to see. And then came his darkest obsession, not just death, but the process of it. He began experimenting, calling servants in under the pretense of care, of treatment, of examination, and then he would cut them open, not to heal, to watch, to see what happened when a human body broke, to observe pain the way a scholar studies a subject, detached, curious, empty. For those inside the palace, there was no escape from it, no safe moment, no safe place, because the emperor who called himself a god might decide at any second that your life was nothing more than an experiment. And as his cruelty grew, so did his paranoia, because deep down, somewhere beneath the delusion, he knew men like him don't die peacefully. They are remembered, they are hated, and eventually they are hunted. The first crack came from within his own family, his sister, Lucilla. She had seen enough, watched him change, watched Rome suffer, and she made a choice to stop him. A plan was formed, simple, desperate, an assassination in public, but it failed. The attacker hesitated, just for a moment, and that moment sealed everything. He was captured, interrogated, and he talked. Names spilled out, and when Lucilla's name reached Commodus, something shifted permanently. Because betrayal from strangers is expected, but from blood, that cut deeper. Lucilla was exiled, then executed, and from that point on, Commodus trusted no one, not family, not allies, no one. His wife was accused, exiled, killed. Relatives disappeared. Powerful figures were eliminated on suspicion alone. Even resemblance became dangerous. Looking like the wrong person could get you executed. And with every death, his fear grew stronger. Because killing enemies doesn't remove fear, it feeds it, until eventually, everyone becomes an enemy. And that's how we return to that final night. The bath, the steam, the silence. Marcia stands there, holding the cup. She knows there is no future if he lives, no escape, no mercy, only waiting for her turn to die. So she poisons the wine, hands it to him, and watches. He drinks, and for a moment, nothing happens. Then his body reacts, violently. But he doesn't die, not yet, and that's the problem. Because if he survives, everyone involved is dead. Not just them, anyone connected to him, anyone suspected. Rome itself could drown in the aftermath. So they make the final decision. They send for Narcissus, a wrestler, a man strong enough to finish what poison could not. He enters the room quietly. No crowd, no armor, no spectacle. Just a weakened man, and the truth closing in. Commodus fights, of course he does, but it's different now. There are no advantages, no staged opponents, no safety,
just hands tightening around his throat, air fading, strength failing, and for the first time in his life, he is powerless. The man who believed he was a god dies like any other, struggling, gasping, alone. And just like that, it's over. No grand finale, no audience, no legend, just silence. Rome tries to erase him after, his name, his statues, his legacy. But you can't erase something like this, because the damage remains, the fear, the instability, the chaos that follows, and the truth behind it all is simpler than any myth. Commodus wasn't a god. He wasn't a monster born from legend. He was a human being given absolute power with nothing inside to control it. And when that happens, an empire doesn't just suffer, it breaks.